Welcome to the Leap Health Workplace Podcast. Here we explore innovative, proven health and wellbeing solutions to drive your performance and productivity. Leap Health empowers individuals and organisations to prioritise their health and wellbeing as a catalyst to performance and productivity. We do this by providing workplace health and wellbeing performance workshops and also the Leap 360 one-to-one leadership coaching to drive health, wellbeing and performance, powered by the Game Changer Index Energy for Impact profiling tool. And we offer bespoke corporate programs to ignite proactivity in ownership at all levels of health and wellbeing as a catalyst to performance and productivity. Whether you're sat at your desk right now or on the move, get ready to listen, get ready to invest your time and take action straight after. I'm Anna Reddy. Let's get ready to make small steps to leap health. Welcome to the episode today, and I'm delighted to be welcoming Emma Hall to the episode today. Emma's a financial advisor who's got lots and lots of experience in her sector, but most importantly, lots of experience in how women can achieve great things at work. And this is what it's all about. But very importantly, men do not switch off right now. Even though women might be in the title, this is just as important for you to be listening to as well. So listen up and you will get a lot of value out of this because you play an integral part in terms of helping women be their best in the workplace, and you get lots of benefits for that as well. So today we're going to be exploring lots of different avenues. We're going to be looking at the workplace as a whole, specifically in the area of finance, looking at changes that have happened, challenges that faces, how we manage and thrive as a woman with kids during different stages, even from when you're going back to work straight after you've had the baby and then juggling kids after that. We're going to be delving into hormones, which we know there's lots and lots of publicity around at the moment and lots of awareness around, and quite importantly so, because workplaces really are losing lots of valuable talents due to just misunderstanding, really, of simple things that can put in place to support women through different stages of hormonal fluctuations. Most importantly, this is all around how we can empower women to be their best, thrive, and reach, make sure that there's absolutely no limits to where they can get to. And as Emma says, which I love this phrase, is actually have the guts. And that's what it's about. Sometimes it's just in our head, and we've got to remove that barrier and just have the guts to do it. So a little bit more about Emma. Emma's skills in professionalism were recognised early in her career when she was voted newly qualified independent financial advisor of the year by the Financial Advisor Life and Pensions Award in 2010. Since then, she's gone from strength to strength, yes, having the guts, yet attaining chartered status in 2014 and being elected a Fellow of the Personal Finance Society, who I've had the pleasure of working with for quite a few years now. This has been highlighting her technical knowledge and commitment to professional development, and she's really focusing on supporting those women now in terms of that professional development. And most recently, Emma won the Financial Planner of the Year 23-24, and again very recently has been promoted to director at 75.3. So a huge congratulations, Emma.
Thank you.
We'll have a break from my voice now and over to you. Tell us a bit more about your journey, because you've definitely had the guts, and tell us about your recent promotion and award.
Yeah, God, what a whirlwind. It's funny, it made me laugh actually when you said, newly qualified financial advisor of the year 2010. I was thinking, my God, that's some time ago, isn't it, when it's 2025 now? Where has the time gone? It has been a whirlwind, to be honest. I'm coming up to 19 years now working in finance, and that's been pretty much my career right from the start. But yes, I think you're right. And it is something I say, I think particularly as women, we need to have the guts to progress ourselves forward. And sometimes that does mean putting yourself in an uncomfortable position, or a position where you're not used to doing it, not used to having to, to talk about things that would make you squirm a little bit and fight for yourself a little bit. So yes, it's been great. I got Chartered Financial Planner of the Year in the 2023-24 year with the Personal Finance Society, which was amazing. I remember a year before seeing an email come through for that award and thinking, God, you know, I wonder how much you need to know and what sort of person you need to be to actually win that. And it was down to our compliance officer, Kim, who said, go on, just, you know, have a go. And I thought, well, why not? What have I got to lose? And yeah, next thing you know, I'm sat at a table in London at a posh dinner and having my name announced by Claudia Winkleman as the winner of the award. So it was amazing, really amazing. And then, yes, I've just become shareholder director in 75.3 as of October last year. So a whole new responsibility, I think, on my shoulders now. I think when you've got the ability to impact other people's careers and futures, that's quite a weight on my shoulders. But it's something I'm extremely passionate about, you know, particularly with women, being a woman in the industry and an industry that's always been quite male dominated. I feel now it's time to give back to young people coming through, women in the industry, anyone else really that might benefit from hearing you know, what my experiences have been like, and maybe me giving skills and sessions to try and help people coming through now, you know, people that want to improve and might not have looked at things a certain way. And it's something I'm really passionate about, gets me excited and thrilled. So yeah, lots and lots of things have happened, and I'm really excited now to see where I go from here.
Amazing. And I love that bit how you said that it was Kim, is it your compliance officer?
Yes.
That it gave you that nudge in the right direction. And that's kind of giving you a nudge in the direction to help other people as well, hasn't it? So, you know, empowering other people and being that positive shining light on other people has multiple benefits further down the line, doesn't it? Helping other people. And sometimes we don't appreciate just those small little bits of encouragement we can give other people, really give them the confidence to go a lot further. So you've mentioned Kim. Is there any other women that have given you that inspiration and that nudge just to go a little bit further?
Yeah, so I've got an amazing group of friends, absolutely. So, you know, Kim, Steph, Tracy, and you know, Jenny's another one. The group, a very close group of people. They all work in finance, funnily enough, and we all met on a graduate scheme. So over the years, we've all struggled in different ways. We all have our own strengths and weaknesses, but we've all very much been there for each other, encouraging each other. Tracy in particular, you know, we work together now along with Kim, but when I struggle with exams, she's always there. Come on, Em, you can do it. Just, you'll get there. Keep going. Just that encouragement, you know, to help you feel like you are good at what you do, you know, and just because there's been a bit of a bump in the road doesn't mean that you're not good at it. You just need to keep going and you get there eventually. So I think having a strong group of people around you, again, women, and I've got lots of male colleagues and friends who all bring strengths to my big circle of support, which is fantastic. I think in terms of women in the limelight, maybe I've read books on Sheryl Sandberg, Karen Brady, those sorts of really strong, powerful women in business. I find them really inspirational. I also sat in on a speaking event, the Leadership sort of Institute. Nicola Henderson, you know, who was the youngest ever skipper of the Clipper race, from the World race. Listening to some of the things that she had to say was amazing. Such a, you know, she's younger than me, but what sort of you know, her skills in managing people and some of the pointers that she had to say just really sort of made me think about things in a different way, which is amazing. And I think most importantly, the one woman in my life who's really inspired me is my mum. She's not a businesswoman. She's very much a home bird, but she gave me the foundation to have, you know, the right morals, to always have integrity, to help read people. She's very good with people. She's very caring. So she brought that side out in me, which I think are very important skills in the industry that I work in now. And I think having those skills is helping financial planners be seen in a slightly different light to maybe how we would have been seen 20, 30 years ago as hard-nosed salespeople who were just out to make money. So yeah, lots and lots of different people and support around.
Brilliant. There's 2 points there I just want to follow up on. Is there, you mentioned your mum, so I'm going to give a shout out to Emma's mum here. Well done, Emma's mum. I think she might not have been a businesswoman, but she was actually ahead of the game, because years and years ago, it wasn't about being your authentic self, about being really genuine and caring and having those values, was it? It was about being, a bit scary to people, dominating people. Fast forward today, the world's completely different. So your mum might not have been business oriented, but I guess she was ahead of the game there as well. And then the second point is just the power of positive noise. What I heard you say then was all these people around you that have been a positive influence. And if you think right now, if anyone's listening thinking, I don't actually have anyone like that, anyone that cheerleads me on, it doesn't have to be people that you know really well. You can get that external validation as well. You mentioned some really inspirational women, and just exposing yourself to that positive noise, whether it's in podcasts like you're listening to right now, or books or on the telly, surrounding yourself with that positive noise overcomes any negative feelings, and tries to rebalance it so that you can feel fired up and have confidence in yourself. So yeah, I think what you said there really sings to that positive noise and being a shining light. And equally, you can be positive noise as well. So it's not just a case of you getting that positive noise, you can be the positive noise too.
Yeah, I'd agree. I've always been an avid reader. I love books, and I think reading books on other people that have succeeded or do things a certain way that maybe you aspire to, just flooding your mind with it really changes your mindset. You really start to think differently about things. I think that's what, doing a lot of these podcasts are about, is being visible to people, and hearing, like you say, podcasts. I listen to podcasts all the time. Steve Bartlett, I'm a big fan of. I know not everybody likes the way he does things, but actually I love all the guests he has on. I think he is an entrepreneur, obviously, and I think he's quite interesting the way he interviews people. But just listening to things like that, flooding your mind with it all, it just does give a shift to your mindset. It really does impact the way you start thinking about things and seeing things, and just your general outlook changes. I heard on one of those podcasts a really interesting study about people who thought they were lucky or not. There was a study years ago that was done where they got everybody into a room. They asked if they thought they were lucky or not, and then they basically asked these people, split them into the lucky and non people that didn't think they were lucky, and asked them to read through a paper, and said, "Can you let us know how many images are in that paper?" Have you heard about this study?
I feel like I've heard it, but I'm loving the quick reminder, because I don't think I've listened to all this detail.
So basically, on about the third or fourth page in, there was a big picture that said there are 42 pictures in this paper, so stop reading now. And the majority of the people who thought they were lucky saw it and just stopped counting, reported then to the researcher at the end there were 42 images. The majority of the people in the group that thought they weren't lucky didn't see it. They just didn't see it, and went through and counted. So it's just quite a big eye-opener to me, that just even that change in mindset about when you feel positive and lucky is actually going to start changing your direction in life, and opportunities will be seen more easily. So yeah, loads of things like that.
Definitely. We could go on forever, because it talks about the language you use about your upbringing and how you see it as to leverage you or to hinder you, and it's the language you use that actually has an impact on the actions and the success that you get. So we haven't even got properly to question 1 and 2 yet. So
sorry, I'll go on all day.
Loads of great information already. So getting into like the actual workplace and the finance industry as well. Why do you think it's historically been tricky for women to start in the workplace, and specifically then in the finance industry?
Yeah, I think probably 20, 30 years ago. I mean, I've been in the industry for nearly 20 years myself. It was seen as probably very much cutthroat, sales, all about money, making money. I've heard several stories from years and years and years ago about people that didn't have integrity, were all about just making the biggest amount of money that they could. And I don't think that lends itself very easily to a lot of women out there, rightly so. It's not a nice industry to be in when it's like that. It's definitely changed a lot since I've been in the industry now. It's very much a people person career. It's for people who do have integrity, who are honest, who like to help people understand complex information. It's not a job where you have to be good at figures necessarily. There are different types of roles in finance which will fit nicely different types of personalities. So, if you happen to be very maths orientated and analysis, and you like spreadsheets and research, paraplanning might be a good role for you, where you are more 9 to 5 in the office. Usually you can accompany advisors on meetings, but you do the research for advisors. You'll be as highly qualified as an advisor in a lot of these days, be chartered. It's just that you prefer to be in the office and do the analysis rather than seeing clients and being face to face. So that's brilliant. If you are somebody who maybe isn't so bothered about getting lots and lots of qualifications, but you like to be organised, keeping people in check, paperwork, detail, admin might be more your thing. If you are more into keeping the company on the right lines, then compliance might be better for you. Or if you've got a legal side, maybe that sort of interest. And then we've got financial planners like myself, who I'm people orientated, love people, love listening to people's life stories and getting to know people. And I'm good at explaining these sort of complex areas so that people can make informed decisions. So there's lots of different roles in finance that would suit lots of different personality types, which I think is such a good thing. And it offers a lot of flexibility now. I've got a 6-year-old, nearly, bless her, 6 going on 16. So I've got the flexibility to make sure that I'm still a mum, and I'm there for things. It gives flexibility to my other half. We can work around things a lot more. So back then, it was a job for sales, basically, but it's not like that anymore. And I think that's been probably quite a big barrier for a lot of women back in the day, who maybe might have liked the idea of it potentially, but probably not, I think. And lack of flexibility would have been a big issue back then as well, considering that probably 30 years ago, most women were the main caregivers in the home.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. And talking about, historically it was that sales pitch and very forceful. And so, I was in sales for many, many years, and it would really make me cringe when people were being really sales. It really didn't fit right. But going back to recently reviewed Stephen Covey's 7 habits, one of them is it's got to be a win-win. So, the way it sounds like you're approaching it now is that it's that real relationship building and looking at what's the right fit for somebody rather than I'm just selling them something. And that's where women, you've got good at building up that connection and trust.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a genuine connection and genuine relationship. You have to genuinely care for the people that you're advising. I certainly do. I do lay awake at night sometimes thinking, have I done the right thing? Am I doing the right thing? I care. And I definitely, again, like I said before, I get that from my mum. My mum was always very big on that. She still is. Do the right thing. Make sure you do the right thing. So I think as women, we definitely have that caring side. I think it's innate in a lot of us, not everyone, obviously, that everyone's different, but we like to care and do the right thing. So yeah, I think that definitely helps us suit towards this sort of job.
Yeah. And by doing the right thing, there can be no backlash, there can be no comeback. So that's a good grounding, isn't it?
It is. I think that the tricky part, especially now that I'm a director, is just having a commercial mind as well, because I think I was certainly guilty of it when I was first in the industry, of probably spending maybe too much time sometimes doing things, and it may be, getting on that borderline of whether it's commercial or not, because I want to do the right thing. So you have to have a bit of a commercial mind about you as well, making sure that you're doing the right thing, but also it is a company and it needs to make profit as well. So it's quite a tricky balance.
Absolutely, getting that win-win for both sides.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, exactly.
So my next question, I think is going to, if the right person's listening now, might be eating the words, because I heard you on a recent podcast, which was brilliant, and you were talking about, before you had children, you'd gone to a recruitment consultant and looking for a job, and I've quoted his words now. These were his words to you. You will be employable as you have no baggage.
Yeah.
How do you think that would land today?
Oh, I'd have no chance. No chance. I think people stick up for themselves a lot more now, which is a good thing. I think maybe recruiters like that recruiter in particular got away with that sort of thing for way too long. He shouldn't have said it. He should never have thought that was okay to say. Children aren't baggage at the end of the day. And God, the amount of men and women that I work with who have children, they have to manage time even more specifically because they have children, So, a few of the women I work with, they will do the extra hours at night, but if that's 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, because they want to get the work done, they're passionate about what they do. So I think it's just quite an old-fashioned way of thinking that if somebody's got children, yeah, okay, might need a bit more flexibility, but it doesn't mean they're not going to get the job done. And in fact, the people I can think of that have children, they work blooming long hours to make sure that they're seen as an important part of the team, that they're putting their fair share in. They probably do a bit more sometimes to make sure that they're seen in that way. So yes, I'd like to think that those sorts of words wouldn't come out of a recruiter's mouth this day and age. But I suppose you never know.
You never know. How do you think we can break that stigma though? Because I don't know about you, I still feel like there is a bit of that stigma still around, even if people aren't saying those words. I'm sure there's lots of people that think they're thinking that. Even though you quite rightly said, often, we just reprioritize our priorities and find ways around being productive and sometimes even more productive than we were.
I think the issue is maybe that, from a recruiter's perspective, they're going to think it's easier to place someone without children, maybe because somebody along the line is going to think that's easier to manage because they won't need to be as flexible and things. Having said that, there are lots of people out there that don't have children that might not be as well suited to that role or might not put as much effort in. Just because somebody's hasn't got children doesn't mean they're going to be the best person for the job either, and that their work ethic is going to be better than somebody with kids. Everybody's different. So I'd like to think that as time's going by and has gone by, that every recruiter out there is going to have worked with someone who has children, who puts the effort in, and that you're not going to be judged just because you've got children and you need a bit more flexibility, that you'll actually be, they'll look at what your skills are, what other people have got to say about you that have worked with you before, those sorts of things, rather than just making some assumptions in their minds based on, I don't know what they base it on, to be honest. Just, what they maybe think is probably going to be less hassle.
Yeah. And actually going back to that point that you said before around, being a champion for other people as well, you're not going to have a workplace that has no parents in there. So if you can understand the other parents and champion them on as well, you can have a real positive ripple effect as well. But interestingly, I did see some stats which came out. Deloitte sent a report out in April last year, which showed that still 47% of women bear the most of the childcare. 51% of women are caring for another adult. And a lot of women now have chosen not to have children and have pets as well, which they care for probably better than I care for my children.
Yeah, it's a very fair point.
And these are things that we don't always take account for. How do you think we can help people in terms of these responsibilities?
I think there's still an old-fashioned way of thinking, maybe, that because women are typically seen as the caregivers, it's almost like a circle. I think if men are given more flexibility in the work as well as women, then they can take on some more of the caregiving duties, which, between me and my other half, yes, I think, my daughter Hallie, she will ask for mummy a lot of the time from a caregiving perspective, and that's quite natural in lots of circumstances. But we try and be quite equal as much as we can be in terms of the caregiving duties. Him dropping Hallie off at school or actually picking her up usually, just because of work commitments. But I think if we give people more flexibility in the workplace, then men will naturally, hopefully, pick up more of those duties, and it won't then be seen as typically the mum's duty to do it. So that will lay off a bit then from the women's side, and that naturally then will link up to, like you say, elderly parents, maybe the men picking up a bit more of that when needed. Hopefully it'll be seen more as well, who can manage it, rather than, well, it should be your responsibility because you're the woman. Just being a bit more equal in the care that's needed. Yes. And I think it's happening. I do think it's happening. Definitely see a bit more equality now, I think, between men and women and mums and dads. And yeah.
There definitely is a switch. Definitely, we're going in the right direction, aren't we? So men who listen to this, I told you there was a reason that you needed to be listening to this, that we need to even up that balance, even more, to have that ripple effect. Very quickly, quick tale around like being a parent and always feeling guilty that you're not doing everything. So often, I usually take my kids to school. But the other morning, woke up and my little boy's crying because it's me that taking him to school, and he's sick of me taking him to school. So you're always going to get a guilt, whatever. So, and I think sometimes we have to accept that, don't we? We can try and do everything, but we're always going to feel like we're missing out on something somewhere, when actually we're not really, and we're not depriving our children.
No, I think that's a really big point, that we talk about what women need, but actually what do the men need as well. Lots and lots of men and dads out there would love to spend more time with their kids and take up more of those roles. I think that's so important. My other half, Ben, when I first had Hallie, I took the year off. He had 2 weeks off. Why are men not given more in terms of paternity pay, equality around that? Why should the women only get it and get more of it? Yes, okay, we give birth, and that's a big impact on the body, but I think it would benefit both if the men could have more time, more paid time off to support and actually be involved in the child's life a bit more. I think so many men out there are missing out and probably feel quite sad about it. So I think more needs to be done around that.
Definitely for that bonding time, and you're developing those relationships, certainly. So moving on a little bit from the baggage bit, or not so baggage, as we've debunked. We also have hormonal shifts, don't we? We have hormonal shifts after we've had a baby. We've got hormonal shifts every month, and then most topically, and rightly so, it's getting so much more awareness, is around this perimenopause period. And I do a lot of work around this and a lot of workshops, and these are ones that I do find really, really interesting and rewarding, just because you just see the penny starting to drop in lots of people's heads in terms of, I'm really not losing the plot. I'm really, they just realise what's actually happening to them. But I'm not sure workplaces are actually there just yet in fully supporting women, or understanding them, or being brave enough to have conversations. What are your thoughts, Emma?
Yeah, I'd agree. I think that, again, I think it's changing, but I do think there needs to be probably more formal awareness training in work. I think just having it, if you have the whole company do the training, then it's open, everybody's done it. There's no, like you say, you don't feel a bit embarrassed about talking about it, because it's, when you go in, the parts of the culture is, we talk about these things, we're aware of it, it's not an issue. Being very clear on the avenues if people are having issues with perimenopause, menopause, IVF treatment, all these other things, mental health issues, that there's a very clear path to follow, who to speak to, making sure there's not just one person to speak to, but maybe a couple, and what's on offer if these issues arise, how to manage it. I think being open from day one for people who are starting in that business, and actually if you've got the business going already, just introducing very, just more formal, doesn't have to be very sort of not structured, but it doesn't have to be stuffy. Make it interesting, light-hearted a little bit maybe, so it's easier to talk about. But I think being very clear that the company has those in place is something that we're working on at the moment at 75.3, improving and making sure that these sorts of policies are in place, and there's a lot of awareness around it. I think the worry is that, as you said, if lots of people are leaving jobs, a lot of the time, if it's to do with perimenopause or menopause, these are going to be very experienced people. They've probably worked a long time and know their stuff. So very valuable members of the workplace are going to leave if we don't get on top of it. I also understand as well, I think maybe especially with men, older men, might be quite uncomfortable to talk about an approach, you know, talking to staff. But in that scenario, if it's really something you don't want to address or feel uncomfortable with, get somebody in your workforce to do it, and someone who might be more comfortable, happy to take it up, take it on. You know, there are ways around it to make sure that it's something that's in your workplace and something that everyone's comfortable with to a certain extent.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think going back to the point around, everyone's got to be involved. Everyone has to be involved. And particularly early on, even your really young staff, you might think, oh, it's not relevant for them. But it definitely is relevant for them, because it starts early. You could have, an early menopause, and you're surrounded by people that are going through it as well. So I think that education is critical for everybody, and not just for men dealing with women in the workplace, probably going home, and that could then be impacting on their mental health and the way that they're feeling if someone's suffering at home. So I think, again, it's addressing it to everybody, isn't it?
Yes, yeah, absolutely agree.
So going back to that phrase that we said right at the beginning, you just want women to have the guts. How can they have the guts? Actionable steps. How can we have the guts?
Yeah, I've thought about this quite a lot over the years. What has made me get over that line to go from fear to actually, well, sod it, I'm going to go and do it anyway and try. So I think one of the things that we always do, and again, this isn't just a woman thing, but being around a lot of women and talking to a lot of women over the years, having lots of friends as women, we tell ourselves stories in our minds about what's going to happen, what the outcome's going to be. We'll make it all up in our minds before we've got anywhere near going to do what we need to do. So I did some really good training with a lady called Julie Goddard of the Success Architect when I was on maternity. And she told me a story which has stuck with me ever since. And she said, imagine that you were in a supermarket and there's a new young mum, and she's got the baby and the baby's crying, and she cuts in the queue in front of you. Now you're going to stand there and think, there's all sorts of stories you'll start making up about it. Oh, look at her, she's a new mum, she thinks she can just cut the queue. You start telling yourself what's happening and why they're doing it, and the outcomes. And actually, if you spoke to that lady, she's probably got a starving baby who needs a feed. She's in a bit of a mess. As we've been young mums, we know what it's like when you've just got a baby and she's just trying to get the shopping and get home, and she hasn't even noticed there's a queue. She's just gone in there. And that was a big eye opener for me. So I was like, you're absolutely right. If something challenging comes along, I always do it. I start telling myself and running the scenario in my head and telling myself what the outcome's going to be and how they're going to behave. And 9 times out of 10, it doesn't pan out like that. So when you need to, for example, ask for a pay rise, or you need to ask for something in work, or there's a conflict going on and you need to address it, don't listen to the stories in your head. Be positive about it. Think about the positive that's likely to come out of it. Because, even if you get a no, what's the worst that can happen? You're not going to get sacked. Yes, okay, it might be a bit uncomfortable, but if you don't do it, you're just going to be in the same position again, probably 6 months down the line, and nothing will change and your feelings will stay the same. So it's no better. So I think you've just got to focus on the potential positives that could come out of it. And if it doesn't happen, have a plan B and just do it. Just absolutely believe in yourself and do it. I think that's the way I've always thought about it. I mean, when it comes to asking for pay rises, for example, build a bit of a case. Why do you think that you deserve a pay rise? It's all good and well worth walking in and just saying, I want a pay rise because someone else is getting paid more, if you find that out. But show your value. I think if you can build a case to show, this is what I've added to the company, this is how I'm helping other people, this is how my clients feel about me, that's always a positive. But it's definitely a mindset thing. It's a mindset. You've got to get over There's like it's almost like an edge or a wall. Once you get over it, it's fine. It's like jumping out of a plane. I've done a couple of skydives over the years. The anticipation is always worse than the actual doing. Same when you get up and do a presentation, the anticipation just before you get up is always worse. And then the upside you get once you've done it is amazing. It's always much better. So, yeah.
I love that. That was one of my sayings for last year, was the Nike slogan, just do it. And I think sometimes we can overthink things, and that story that you said, that's the longer we've got to build that story, the more it can manifest. But often, going back to your point right at the beginning, do you feel lucky? It's sometimes a story that you tell yourself, isn't it? And believe in yourself. And I think this is what you're doing, is to other women, is to empower them to let go of those fears and tell the best story you can do. One of the questions I often use in my workshops is, rather than what do you want to achieve, maybe go to the end of your life and look back on your life and, what did I want to achieve? Or, maybe you with your little girl, what do you wanted to say about mum? Like you're talking about your mum now, about all the positive things she's shown you, but what do you want them to be saying about you? And sometimes that gives you that motivation to actually go for it and have the guts.
And I mean, I've actually said to a friend of mine, she was having issues at work. She felt that she was being given more than she should have been doing, but not getting the pay to basically reflect that. Somebody had left, she'd been given their work, and then they were saying, oh, we don't have enough money to pay you what they were paid. And I see that so many times over the years. It's frustrating. And I said to her, she's got 2 young boys. She absolutely, obviously loves them to pieces and will fight tooth and nail for anything for them. And I said, imagine you are fighting for something for them, which actually you are, because you want higher pay, which will directly impact the lives they're going to have going forward. I said, if you were going into that meeting and you were fighting for something for them, you wouldn't think twice about it. You would not. You would go in. And same with like pet owners. Like you said before, a lot of pet owners out there put their pets above everyone else in the family. If you absolutely needed to go and fight for something for them, you wouldn't think twice about it either. So why do we always, when we think about ourselves and what we need for ourselves, and I think a lot of particularly women out there are worried about rocking a boat, worried about appearing to be difficult, just that really uncomfortable feeling. But actually, go in there with a different mindset. What are you fighting for? What are the impact you're going to have if you go in there and you're successful? And the other thing I always do is I always think, right, okay, if I'm not successful, very briefly though, I don't dwell on it. I think you have to focus on the positive, but what is the absolute worst that can happen? And if that happens, what's your plan B? That's what I think. And I've got a plan B now. So I'm set. I think I'm going to succeed, but just in case I don't, I've got a plan B, so I know what I'm doing there as well. So there's no like bad outcome to it. So yeah, that's the way I always approach these things.
That's true strategist, Emma. We were having a conversation the other day, weren't we, about the power of your strategy and being able to, plan things out ahead. But yeah, I love that around nothing's a failure. So, if you don't get the desired outcome, it's still a learning process. You're still a step closer in the right direction. And actually, as you said, sometimes we think we're doing it for ourselves, but unless we fasten our own seatbelt first, we can't help those around us to be the best. And sometimes you might think, oh, no, I'm going to annoy my manager, I'm going to annoy my employer by asking for this.
Yeah.
But what's more annoying to them is you being a quiet quitter, of you disengaging with work because you don't feel valued, probably looking for something else because you're not feeling valued, really not being able to focus and give it your all because you're not energized by what you're doing. That doesn't benefit those above you or those who pay your salary. So we've got to be open, we've got to be brave, we've got to have those open conversations, and just think about fastening our own seatbelt first sometimes.
I think so, absolutely. And also, if you go into that meeting and you do get a no, we'll ask them why and what do I need to do to have that pay rise. Get them to set out specifically what you need to achieve, so that if you go ahead and achieve that and you go back and they say no again, then you're like, well, I've done it. actually, am I going to get this pay rise? Or yes, maybe you have to go elsewhere. Sometimes that happens, unfortunately. But I think making sure that there are measurable objectives that you come out with, at least now you're ahead of the game again. You know what you need to achieve, and hopefully they will be reasonable. And if not, have a conversation around it. But that, like you say, just because you got the no doesn't mean there can't be an advantage out of it. You can still get an advantage that way.
Yes, great point. A no is not always a no. So I'm hearing some top tips from Emma there. If you want to go and ask for a pay rise, you need to have reason why you're doing it. Provide those solutions why you're doing it and the reason why and the why that you add value. And if you're not successful, to understand the why, understand the reason, and get a roadmap as to how you can be successful so that it is a win-win in the end.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Brilliant. Some good top tips there and actionable tips. We'll have lots of people now going to get pay rises.
I know everyone's going to hate me. All bosses will be like.
So we've spoken a lot around the workplace as a whole, just specifically because your expertise is within finance. If anyone's starting to get a little bit more interested and curious about finance, what would be your advice to women just starting out, and what small steps can they do to get the ball rolling in terms of a career in finance?
I think first of all is have a think about what your strengths are, what you enjoy, and that will naturally then maybe lead you into a certain role in finance. I think that's always a good thing. Have a plan. I always have a plan every year, what my aims and objectives are for the year, and maybe a 5-year plan as well is typically what I would have. Try and find a mentor. It can be a bit difficult, but I mean, the CII, PFS, they have an e-mentoring program, which I'm part of. I'm mentoring a new advisor at the moment. That's really good. Or just somebody that that you look up to, who you think successful, who you'd like to follow in their path, even if it's not in finance, if it's something else. I think having people around you to help guide you is always a good thing. If it is going into finance, there's going to be a lot of exams potentially if you're going into advising or paraplanning. So looking into those, whether you can find a graduate scheme to help you on your way, or maybe a scheme you don't necessarily have to be a graduate. You don't have to have a degree from university, to start on the path to finance roles, although you will end up doing a lot of exams pretty much like a degree anyway, the equivalent of a degree. So just looking into what you can be doing, reading up, about the topics that the exams are based on, that will help as well. So you've got an idea of what you're getting into going forward. I quite often asked about, whether you should go for a degree which is finance related. I don't think you necessarily have to. I mean, I've got a degree in psychology and criminal justice, and I went into finance. Most people I know that I work with didn't have finance degrees, but it probably help. It'll be a bit of an easier transition if you've done finance or accounting or something like that. But it's not necessarily the be all and end all. It's more about actually learning when you're on the job. I think that's the most important thing.
Super. So lots of opportunities there. And going back, Emma had explained the different types of roles that you could go in early on in our conversation as well. You mentioned that mentorship program. We'll put a link to that within the show notes as well that people can go to. Finding those mentors, those people that you can work with, really understanding what it entails before you sign up to it, because you don't want to sign up to something then realise this is not for me. So do your homework first so that you invest in your time in something that you really want to do. And then the most important thing is enjoying it. And I guess, as you said, lots of these points are applicable to every workplace, and even the roles that you discussed, there will be all different types of roles within every workplace. So really be curious and find out all the different options. Don't just assume, I'm not able to do this because I don't have the qualifications, I've so-called got baggage, I've got this story in my head that I can't do it.
Yeah.
Just be curious and reach out to people who can give you that positive noise.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I think there's another study out there where it showed that women in particular tend to, when they look at a job description, I think we need like nearly all of the points before we'll apply, whereas a lot of men will maybe have half and they'll apply. So yeah, don't be so hard on yourself. just go for it, have a go. You know, again, what's the worst that can happen? You'll get feedback, which is really important. You might have a chance at an interview, even if you don't get the job. It's experience for the next one, maybe the right job that comes along. So just think about the positives that come out of maybe an outcome that you weren't expecting. I think that again, mindset is a big one.
Yeah. And again, feel lucky about what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. I do, you know, I spoke to my other half about that study once I'd heard about it, and I said to him, do you feel lucky? Do you feel like a really lucky person? I always have done, weirdly, since a young age. I've always felt quite lucky. So I don't know, maybe that has helped in my path going forward over the years. But it definitely helps. Positive outlook on things, feeling lucky, assuming you're going to get it, or if you don't, that there's a reason why that's happened, and actually it'll make you ready for the next one. Again, that's the way I always think about things. There's going to be a learning outcome from it somehow. Yeah. Definitely.
Interesting. So we're going to go slightly off tangent, but I still want to include this question in our conversation because I wanted, just out of curiosity and nosiness, really. So you've got lots of clients that you'll be working with partners together. What do you see? Are men still holding the purse strings, or is it getting a bit more equal in terms of, you know, the gender bias in terms of holding and controlling the finances? What do you see? Are we there yet with it being equal?
Right. So I think, again, there's another statistic out there somewhere. I can't quite remember it properly, but I think they're saying that there's more women. There's going to be a lot more women than men potentially that hold, entrepreneurs and things, I think, or have got more wealth. Can't remember the exact thing. I'll have to look that up again. There are definitely more business owners, women out there now, and women that are controlling the purse strings in the household. Having said that, when I first started advising, I used to see a lot of men who were taking charge of the finances, shall we say, in the household. But I'd say the majority of them wouldn't make a decision without consulting the wife first. The wife would need to give the go-ahead a lot of the time. I think maybe now it's just more open, a little bit more, and women are actually taking control more fully of the finances in the household. Yeah, definitely. There's definitely been a big change to that over the years. Yeah.
So good to know. Women have always had an input. They've always had a say, but now it's turning more towards it's actually their finances that they're having a say about.
Yes. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, definitely.
Very positive, very positive. And another positive note as well, a recent stat that I showed as well. So we're coming to a close now. I want to end on a positive note. The new board appointments for women on the FTSE 100 is almost half now. It's 47%. So, you know, we can break down those barriers. Almost half of women are on that FTSE 100 new appointments are on that board. So we are going in the right direction. We've just keep up this momentum and keep breaking down those barriers, and so it can be done. The data shows it can be done, and we can do it.
Yeah, I think it's important to have more women on the board. You know, a lot of your workforce is going to be women, so wouldn't it be good to have women and men on there, all with different perspectives on things, different experiences? It's a diverse industry. Most industries are diverse in terms of the clients that you're dealing with, so you would want a diverse board surely to help get the best out of everybody that's in your company and the clients that you're working with.
Absolutely. So rather than it just being, you know, diversity in gender, you know, we want diversity in everything, don't we? And that's how we can really flourish moving forward, particularly in a world that's going to be dominated by AI. We need this difference of diversity, don't we, that can bring lots of different things to the table.
Yeah, I think so. I hate the thought of a box ticking exercise. I think that's useless. You shouldn't be recruiting people based on whether they're a man or a woman or whatever, you know, their background is, or it should be down to skills, really, experience, you know, how they are as people, whether they're a good leader, all that sort of thing. It's a bit contradictory, really, isn't it? Because, you know, you think, but then in my mind, I think, would you benefit from having women on a board as opposed to just men? I do, but I certainly wouldn't want boards out there to be taking on women, for example, just because they're women. Hopefully you'd see the benefits of having the skills that they can bring as people, not just because they're women. So I think it's a fine balance, really. You want diversity, but you want it in the right way. You don't want it just to be ticking boxes. Yeah.
And that's with everything in business, isn't it? It can't be a tick box exercise. And I predominantly work in the wellbeing performing space. And the companies that really thrive from their investment are the ones that live and breathe what they do. It's not just a tick box. And going back to that menopause, talking about the menopause as well, lots of companies are doing that as a tick box. But the most important thing with everything is that it's a genuine investment in that, and it lives and breathes. And So we are coming to a close now. So I've got some really quick, fast questions for Emma. So speed up, and then we're going to be coming to a close. So what are 3 things that workplaces need to do to help women thrive?
I think there's so many things, probably, isn't there? But I think flexibility is a really good thing, and autonomy. Just I think having an open culture where men and women can actually be autonomous, be trusted to work in the way that suits them to a certain degree. I know, again, there are industries out there where lots of flexibility is it's just not going to work. But I think having trust in people to work the best way that they can, to be able to come and go. Again, I think there's a lot of argument around this, whether you give that to somebody straight away when they first start. Maybe not. Maybe you have to earn trust. I think that's a good thing. But yes, autonomy, flexibility, I think are 2 key things that would be very important. And a culture where it's open about talking about different issues and life events that happen, like menopause and IVF and mental health, and just women like to talk about things. We like community, so having that community feel in the workplace, I think, will really encourage women to thrive. Yeah,
absolutely. And those kind of interlink, don't they? If you've got that open culture where people can talk, then you feel more confident offering that flexibility because you know the reasons why they need that flexibility and what's going on, and you can give people that autonomy. But yeah, brilliant. Okay, what are 3 misconceptions that women need to know about a career in finance?
It's not all about sales and money. That's a big one. It's not. It's a people person's type of job. Well, financial planning is anyway, as a financial planner. But it's very much about developing relationships with clients, doing the best that you can for them, being having integrity, honesty. It's that type of area now. It's not just about making money and cutthroat and long. Yes, okay, there's long hours sometimes, but it depends on the job you have. There's plenty of flexibility with it now, so it's not this men in suits, cutthroat, chugging glasses of booze in the pub in London late at night, that sort of thing. I think that's how it's always been looked at. It's very different now. Still lots of fun. There's still a social side to it, but yeah, it's not like Wolf in Wall Street type thing.
Yeah,
not to that extreme.
And I think that is just a massive misconception, isn't it? It's something I've learned since working with the Finance Society as well, that it isn't just about those numbers and those sales. It is that relationship building. And what would be your advice to an old school boss who might be blind to the power and potential of women in the workplace, or that grumpy old man who's women's places in the home?
Well, chances are he's probably going to be an entrepreneur, so he's a risk taker. So I would probably say take a risk. What's the worst that can happen? And like I said before, if you're really not comfortable personally with maybe having more women in higher positions in the company, or you don't know how to approach it, get somebody in the company that you're working with that would be better at it or would feel more comfortable approaching it. Be open to ideas. just have a bit more of an open mindset to things and give it a try. You might be amazed by the results of having more women in that business, and the benefits that can bring, and benefits that maybe you would never have considered. So yeah, take a chance.
Yeah, have the guts.
Have the guts. Take a risk.
And finally, what would be your words of wisdom to get women fired up to have the guts to succeed in their careers, and so in their careers general, but then particularly in finance? So what are going to be your final words of wisdom that's going to spark interest? And
yeah, believe in yourself. Absolutely back yourself. I think that's a big one. Don't ever give up. There's been many a time over the years where I've had challenges. I've been downhearted, but I've always thought, no, my motto is I can, I will. And when I've done it, I say, I did. I can, I will, I did. That's what I tend to tell myself. If I'm sat doing something difficult, if I've got something coming, I'm saying to myself, Emma, I can. Emma, I will. I will, I can, I will. That's what I keep sort of saying to myself. So don't give up. As I say, find someone who'll back you. That really helps, I think. Find your backer, whoever that may be, family, friends, somebody maybe that you've seen on LinkedIn, who can help and support you. And just fill your mind with positive things. It really changes your mindset. Learn, all the interesting things out there about how to improve your mind, how to change your mindset. Makes a huge difference. It really does. Just take the time to do it, really. I remember when I was in my 20s, I was like, I'm not reading that book. I mean, I've always been an avid reader, but I remember somebody came into work and saying, read this book about, careers or whatever it was. And I was like, I'm not reading that. But actually, when you sit down and do it, it doesn't half make a difference. It really does. Or listen to a podcast if you don't like reading. Yeah. Fill your mind with positive.
Well, brilliant. A great way to end. And following on that, fill your mind with positive. You're in control of that. Sometimes we think it's not up to us, but we can be in control of the things that we listen to. We can turn social media off, we can block people. Well, not always that easy to block people in person, but we can to a certain extent, have a bit of control. We can block people online. So make sure that you're filling yourself with that positive noise, as Emma said. Fill that positive noise in your head with I can, I will. And have those people that can create that positive story, as Emma mentioned, for what that unlimiting life and unlimiting success.
Yeah, absolutely.
So this just leaves me to say a huge thank you, Emma. I've loved our conversation. I'm sure people are going to take lots away from this, whether they're in the finance industry or in another industry, whether they're women or men, whoever it is. I feel like they're going to be able to take something really valuable away from this. If you found it really useful, or someone's come to mind that you think this would really help, please do share this episode with them. Emma, where can people find out more about you?
So I'm on LinkedIn. That's the main one. Yeah, LinkedIn, or on our website, 75point3.com. You can go there and find out about our business and myself and my colleagues. If there's anybody out there who feels something has triggered them, to inspired them or anything, and they want to message me, by all means, very happy to receive messages. It's always lovely to hear feedback. Any questions that you might have about career or anything else that we've talked about, always very happy to answer any questions on LinkedIn.
Super. And I've just realised I haven't added in Emma and some of her colleagues from the Personal Finance Society did a great podcast series about women and wealth, which delves into lots of these areas that we've covered a little bit more. We did have Alina on the podcast a few weeks ago, who was also on the Women in Wealth podcast as well. And I'm just going to add something really quick into the end of this. Sometimes your success is determined upon making yourself accountable. So we can tell ourselves things that we're going to do, but we can also let ourselves off the hook. If you want to make yourself accountable, drop myself an email, message Emma on LinkedIn, tell us what you intend to do. And just by making yourself accountable, it can increase your success rates. So thank you once again. Have a lovely day, and we'll look forward to seeing you again or sharing another podcast episode with you. So before you stop listening, I want you to pause. What did you take away from the podcast today? What small steps will you start? And what did you hear that you know could help someone else to make small steps to link their health, well-being, productivity and performance? Please do share this episode and please subscribe to the podcast. And remember that Leap Health are here to provide workplace, health, well-being and performance workshops, one-to-one coaching and bespoke corporate solutions to help the world make small steps to leap health, well-being, productivity and performance. Please do get in touch. It's Anna at leaphealth.co.uk. Have a great day.